Good morning or good afternoon or whatever it is today. Um, Today we're going to be talking about imaginary numbers. It's going to be kind of a review for most of you, but hopefully it works to get you back into thinking about numbers that aren't real or rational. So in the past couple, pretty much 2 weeks, we've been dealing with finding all of the real zeros for a function. But now we're going to find all the zeros for functions. Today we're just going to review imaginary numbers. So an imaginary number is I, and I is equal to, not sure why my pen's not working, the square root of -1. So um, anytime you've got a negative under the radical, that's going to give you an imaginary number. So we've got I, then, what's that skipping? Taking some time to get used to this. So we've got we've got I squared let's try this. So we've got I squared. Well, I squared is going to be just -1. And then if I go to further and I go to I to the third, well, I to the third will be -1 times the square root of -1, which is going to be negative I. So I cubed is negative I. I to the fourth will be I squared times I squared, which is going to be -1 times -1. So I to the fourth is just going to be 1. And then I to the fifth will be just I, because it's going to be I to the fifth will be I times I to the fourth. Sorry about my pen here, which will just be I. Okay. So, and then it goes on from there, like I to the sixth will be 1 times -1, right? Because I to the sixth will be I to the second times I to the fourth, which will be 1 times -1 or just -1. So it goes pretty much in order. You know, I then I squared. So then I squared is -1. I to the third is negative I to the fourth is 1. I to the fifth, we're back to I to the sixth, we're back to -1. I to the seventh, we're at negative I. So it pretty much follows that order. Okay, so I'm going to pause here for a second. Okay, now let's go to um, complex numbers. Not sure why the pen is not working very well. I think I need a better stylus than what I have. Oh, that's horrible. sometimes technology is your friend and sometimes it's not. So let's try this. Well, apparently it's the stylus because this is just using my finger. So complex numbers are numbers that have like an a plus a number. So a and b are actual integers here. So a plus bi is the format, or a minus bi. So a number like 3 plus 4i is considered a complex number, or 2 minus 3i is a complex number. Now, when you're adding these, you need to think about it like a square root. So if I wanted to add 3 plus 4i and 2 minus 3i, I would get I, and I would get 1 plus I, right? Because 4i minus 3i, so 4i minus 3i is gonna give me I, and then 3 plus 2. Oh, I did that wrong. So 3 plus 2, of course, is not going to give me 1. It's going to give me 5. So my answer there is 5 plus I when I add these two together. Now, multiplication is a different story. So when we're multiplying complex numbers, like if I wanted to multiply 5 plus 2i and 3 plus I, well, we're going to multiply the same way as we usually do, but we have to be careful with these imaginary numbers. So if I multiply the first terms, I get 15. If I multiply the outside, I get 5i. Multiply the inside, and I get 6i. And then if I multiply 2i times I, well, I times I is negative 1. So I'm going to get negative 2, right? 2 times I gives me negative 2. And then I simplify by combining like terms, and I get 15 plus 11i minus 2. Well, I can combine 15 and negative 2, and I get the complex number 13 plus 11i. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to simplify values. So if I have like I to the 25th, well, we're not going to want to go through and figure out what I to the 25th is by hand. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that exponent and we're going to divide it by 4. Well, by dividing it by 4, what we get is we get 6 with a remainder of 1. Well, now what we do is we say, since we divided by 4, we take I to the 4th to the 6th power, and then I to the 1st power. Well, I to the 4th, we know, is 1. So we've got 1 to the 6th power times I to the 1st is just I. So the answer to I to the 25th, simplified, is just I. So let's try another one of those. Let's say I to the Oh, we'll go with 35th. Well, I take the 35 and I divide it by 4. 35 divided by 4 is 8, remainder 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take I to the 4th and raise that to the 8th power, and then multiply that by I to the 3rd power. Well, I to the 4th we know is 1. So what we've got left is I to the 3rd, which is negative I. So I to the 35th is really negative I. So that completes all the new material for today. And next you should get to work on the assignment, which combines a lot of this imaginary number review. Don't forget to post it to the classroom assignment page before next class. Thank you.